You're good to go, Brian.
Yep.
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
All right, we're returning back into open session, and our first agenda item then that we'll go back to is reviewing the possible uses of the jury room and the Justice Center for voting.
Can we talk about security yet? There's two items that we're going to discuss in open session. There's security.
Yep. I thought those items were part of that one. I'm sorry. We'll take the ones off of our, we'll take the security items first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They do all kind of intermingle. They do kind of flow together. The first item is the additional security amounts. You may recall the original plan had two security areas potentially, especially during voting. We're back down to having one secure location as far as going through a security checkpoint. And so with that, Sergeant Hennis was kind enough to adjust his figures. You may recall that now with the new configuration of having the security checkpoint on the east side of the building, everybody going through security. There are offices in this building that are open a little earlier. The constitutional officers, clerk, treasurer, and register of deeds are open earlier in the morning and later in the evening. And so that provides extra hours to have security, as well as various committees, pick up public safety, which meets at 7 a.m. County board meets at 6 p.m. And so other security measures, security officers are needed at that location for those various events and meetings. And certainly you could have other meetings that are in the building as well during that time. The estimate for that extra security cost is $32,000. I rounded it up a little bit from Sergeant Hennis's estimate, but just provide extra staff in the morning, evening, and those meetings would be to cover those costs. So the original cost, having the two security checkpoints and voting, was close to almost double that amount. So it's a quite a significant cost savings from going down to two potential stations at one time, going down to the configuration that you see up on your screen, and reutilizing the same security checkpoint that was there before. So that one's on there for an information purposes, because Britt was talked about in the previous meeting about what's that going to cost for the additional security needed at that entrance. So this is providing some information to the committee, and certainly if there are any questions on that, we can provide more information about how those numbers came about.
I would guess that number to be a lot higher than that, so I'm satisfied with that number.
For clarification, that would be one singular entrance for any access to the larger structure.
Correct. Yes.
Including employees, including public, for any.
Anybody who enters the east side of the building, if the employees decide to park in the public lot, then they would have to go through here and go through security. If they decide to park on the western lot, then they would not have to go through security. The lot you most likely parked in for today's meeting.
The western lot. Before the north lot.
Just for understanding that there'd be extra expense annually that would be based upon appropriate staff to cover those meeting numbers as you indicated, the county board meeting, et cetera.
Early morning county board, and they're currently offering some weekend hours as well, quarterly, I believe,
As of right now, yeah.
right now, quarterly. And so that's the one, I forgot that earlier, but yes, that's all those numbers were provided.
Just curious, would that cost be assigned to those respective departments that would utilize said after hours services?
I am not sure how that cost is currently divvied up, because everyone's going through it to Justice Center. We have not had those cost discussions internally. And I'm not sure how the sheriff accounts for it in his budget right now. I don't want to put him on the spot either.
Just a thought.
I believe that we just absorb the cost with. Kind of one of those costs of doing businesses. But definitely your line of thinking is similar to like with Aaron Dollar and how they start to get creative on.
The other agenda item on that security report is the policy of what can be brought into each of the separate buildings. You'll see that with the new configuration that's up on the screen. I'll roll through this real quickly. The vestibules are existing. We're looking at widening out a little bit. The public would come in, go through a series of stanchions, basically ropes, be able to go through the system, back queue up to go through security line. Obviously, if there's a low traffic, low volume, they would simply, take that down at some other location. If you're going to like an amusement park, they can take the chain down, or rope down, and they can come through. So or if someone's in a wheelchair or a motorized scooter, they can, get better access right through security line. So I just realized that they'd be going through the security system, coming through here. Then they would go through either the Justice Center, or they could wrap around and go to the Government Center through that main lobby and out. And so currently we're looking at these being two different buildings, one being Justice Center, one being Government Center, and the rules potentially working with our attorney, working with the sheriff, could be slightly different between the two. Obviously, people going through security having the same, more or less the exact same security parameters, which is also in your packet of, no guns, no knives, all that kind of stuff, explosives, would be our recommendation. But there's some of the stuff I know is food and water was brought up earlier. That's something that the sheriff has said previously, and hopefully he's on that same page that if someone comes to the security line and saying they're going to the Government Center, if I allow them to come in the door, make a quick left-hand turn after security and head back into the Government Center. And they would not allow them to go to the Justice Center with that food or beverage. So I talked briefly with the county attorney on that policy, and I believe he thinks that's a policy that can go through committee, potentially up to the board as well, to look at what that is, because two separate buildings going. The Justice Center is up to the judges, according to Supreme Court, so they get to decide on what comes into that building. But the Government Center would come back to most likely executive committee, and then the board if need be. If you have questions on that, we haven't rolled through what that exactly looks like. It's all allowed, not allowed, but that was a question that we brought up a couple times by this committee about what was or not allowable. But just to let you know that would most likely come back through a committee at the board and then potentially the county board. And if you have questions on that, the sheriff is here to hopefully answer those, the county attorney as well. So
I would, and I'll just throw my statement out there. I think my personal opinion for when that future discussion happens, I think when we make rules for the public, I would hope that we would make those same rules for us as board supervisors. Don't want to say that think that we're involved in public by any means, so whatever the rules are for them, I would abide by this our board or our committee and stuff. But that's obviously a lot more of a policy thing out there versus a planning situation.
So to do. Not unlike if I may, there's a Justice Center entrance for you and pretty much page 2 that, sorry, it's page 6, but page 2 of the document attaches, there's 2 pages, but this says page 6 on it. Possession of Washington County Justice Center. As you go for down the last paragraph, this practice should be avoided as it attempts of the student process and the public prevent or prohibit items from being considered items. That seems contradictory. It should be, in my mind, it's talking as I, if you try to prohibit items, it's like, no. Well, I think I have liability of a county employee watching somebody prohibited item. Take it out their car. That's just talking about being consistent. That's inconsistency with action or inaction. So not to get into the cheese making or whatever, but from a policy perspective, I'm surprised that practice even exists.
but I think the thing I wanted to point out is that we do have a way to provide that you would have control over the Government Center and what's allowed and not allowed. The judges will be on the Justice Center side, and you have a way to actually, if you want to slightly modify the policy, that you have that capability.
Okay, there's enough
And then however the committee,
flexibility in there to allow for that sorting of the lines.
currently, yes, that would be allowed to do that, and it'll be up to the committee and potentially the board to make the final decision on what that is.
Okay. The one area I see we're missing in this after security is a recombobulation zone.
I'll get there.
Is that signage?
The plan's not perfect, but Sergeant Henderson point something out for that, yes.
Okay, I like the signage to reflect something of that nature.
To go into that is, which will be on next, I'll wait till next agenda item if you're okay with that.
Sure, that's fine. Is there anything else about the screening policy that Scott, that you have, or any comments from the committee at this time? Okay, if not, I'll wrap it up. I'm happy that we were able to continue to talk about this and keep this in mind as we work through some of this design work and stuff. So with that, we will move on then to. I think that's a good thing here. We'll move on to the review of the government center. Or I'm sorry, review of possible use of the jury room in the government center for voting. Now we're on everyone?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this directly relates to the picture you have up on the screen. Myself and Kara, we had a good meeting that included the clerk reports, the county clerk, county attorney, the Washington County judges. Talked about the old plan for the vestibule allow voting in the jury room. It was a very good conversation, very cordial conversation. And I want to thank the judges for trying their hardest to hopefully come to a solution that would potentially work for juries in that room. Part of that meeting, the county attorney was there and he certainly can speak to himself. And inside the committee report, you'll see a quote from the county attorney where he doesn't believe that, and I certainly agree with him, I doesn't believe that that's the right location for allowing people not going through security to go into the Justice Center. So you can certainly read the opinion. The county attorney is here to elaborate it if you so desire. But since that opinion came out, I did have a meeting with the head judge today. Obviously, Sergeant Hennis has been aware of this as well. Working through security. The county executive has contacted the mayor. The county clerk has been trying to get in hold of the city clerk to let them know the potential change. The next voting is not until potentially February of next year, so there is some time to find another polling location, and we have an option or two out there already potentially. So I know this was discussed earlier at a couple of the meetings about voting and stuff, and not to say it's about dollars and cents, but obviously there's a big cost savings to it not having to do a major remodel in this area where instead of including the hallway that goes into there and changing the mailroom up, adding other stuff to it. It's and a second security checkpoint. So maybe a couple $100,000 savings as well. Not having to go through all that other remodeling. So, and so with that, certainly be able to answer any questions you have, and I can certainly go through the vestibule changes that we're looking for. That's up on the screen right now. That people would come in the main door, again, snake around, go through security, come around, and then exit out the southern door. Again, not allowing for voting in the building. And even when you think about it logically, that if you had an issue with the law enforcement and you're going voting, and when you come to voting and there's literally two or three officers on each side of you as you're walking in and walking out, that might discourage you from ever coming back again as well. Again, but so I agree with the county attorney's opinion, and certainly looking for some direction from the committee today to make sure that you are in agreement with the county attorney. Again, the judges are okay with not allowing voting. Like I said, I talked to county executive and county clerk about it as well. Not to say that there might not be an opportunity in the future in another building that we can, where the PAC moves across the street, that we can do something there potentially, but right now, voting in that particular location does not look feasible.
Not feasible in the PAC either.
PAC would still be allowed.
Okay, but it's outside of the district. Is that what our discussion was last time?
I would venture that as the clerk to chime on this more so, but that right now 113A and B is utilized for voting. I don't know what district that is.
5.
We 5,
Mhm.
and we were actually had a quick conversation about, is there another room in that building? The break room that's downstairs, could that be utilized for voting as well? I don't believe that Ashley just hasn't had a chance to connect with the clerk yet to see what other viable options are out there right now. This is relatively fresh. This all came about in the last week and a half or so, Brad, I want to say. So we're working through the issue and trying our best to navigate it as quickly as we can. Again, we have some time before they vote.
We have time, but it does go quick.
It does.
Yeah, and I can assure you that our clerk is very adamant about making sure people vote.
Mhm.
And she'll do everything she can to make sure that happens.
Say supervisors, Shadron first.
Thank you. Scott, is there any room in your building back there? The Public Works building for voting?
We have a small conference room up front that you have to go through office to get to. We also have a break room up front. It's one of the things that our clerk will look at, potentially with the city clerk, to see if that's a viable option or not. There's close parking, but limited parking, if you know, that's close by. There's more parking near there, too far away. But those would be another location that's quite possible. Just we'd have to see what kind of room they need.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gals, did you have something?
Regarding that, I mean, I'll take off the table other comments about voting sites or whatever and leave that to the West Bend, which I think that's my only comment. If that should be their issue, we shouldn't be addressing their issue. So I'll get that off the table. Related to this topic, yes, I can't justify $100,000 or whatever that was going on specifically for voting. And even if we did, then West Bend should pay for it. Not all Washington County taxpayers. So that's where I reside, but I would say no, we shouldn't make building improvements for that type of use, which is limited to a couple times a year.
Thank you. And along those lines as well, it wouldn't bother me if we continued the practice until the construction, the practice that we've had up until now, until construction begins. But at that point, I think we need to have a clear point at which we say this date or this event is going to mark when this is going to end, so can convey that to the city of West Bend as well, so that they can plan as quickly as possible.
That was one of my questions, actually, I haven't looked at a phasing plan of these improvements, but is there a particular election where that's going to be the
Yes.
last one?
Yeah, the phasing plan will come and play next month at the next committee meeting. You don't have that now, but the current room, which is right across from the county clerk's room, 2024, is part of the very first phase, which most likely is September of this year. Again, the next possible voting most likely is not until February of 2026. So again, we've got plenty of time to give the notification. There's actually procedures in place that actually kind of mentioned to me about the timing and stuff like that. We're well ahead of that timing.
Because I would, my 2 cents to that topic, I think it would have been nice if we could have continued to make it work, but at the same time, sometimes it's not worth making those improvements for such a limited use, especially in such a centrally located portion of our new entrance and stuff like that. So obviously the appropriate parties are aware of the changes that we'll be implementing, and they'll be up to those entities to make those changes accordingly, not so much for this committee to figure out.
Is that a general consensus? I don't know. You can ask for that, Brad, if they're willing to do that and keep moving on at that pace.
I'm giving you my nod, and
All right, thank you.
I think we're all on the same page with that.
And I got shot back.
Me too.
Figured we'll let you back there.
Okay, with that consensus, we'll move on to the next item, which is the review of government center buildings, building plans and details.
So in your packet was the rather long plan set, detailed plan set that you have. And knowing that you've got it kind of, may have gotten at the last minute, I want to offer something up first. If the committee so chooses, we can print out hard copies, larger copies. We have about a week or so to provide comments back to the architect. So if there's an option that if you'd like to provide comments outside of this, you haven't had a chance to look at them yet. And sometimes I, being more old school, I like to see a hard copy, a larger set too, so I can read them. We'd be certainly willing to provide that to you too, and then we can redline those comments and provide those back to the architect in about a week. So if you don't have any specific comments, all of that, or want to do that, please contact me. We can make make that happen for you as well. Certainly willing to go step by step and room by room, if that's, not see that. But I will go through some of the major changes, and that major change we've talked about is that lobby and entranceway that you see coming forward, that the existing room to the left on the side of the screen coming in that vestibule would be, it's right now a law library, would simply be rebranded to the mail room. Again, no modifications, so again, maybe something at the door, but other than that, no real modification to that room. Maybe some interior countertops or something like that, but no structural component changes to that room because it's already there and in place. The jury assembly room as well, not a lot of changes. We'd have a set of doors on the south side of that building, that room, excuse me, that would allow if staff from the government center need to utilize that roomway for a larger assembly area, we'd be able to do that. Obviously, we'd have to be posted. The same rules apply to that room as does the Justice Center. They're posted outside. We had this room was for storage on the inside, but the storage here is large enough. It would simply be walled off, and that becomes a storage area there. That's a corridor for the Justice Center. It used to be the vending area back behind there. We just simply put a wall here and a door, a little side door on it, and allow that for storage on the back side. Again, a little cheaper option before of putting a wall here and a wall down here and doors on the inside. Again, a little inexpensive option, putting a shorter door, smaller doors, maybe one door, and then a smaller wall location. So that's kind of the major modifications of the jury assembly room and the main lobby as you come in. Going across the hall in that main area, you got the county clerk's office. Again, you're seeing a little more detail in every office and every deal. You'll see a little bit more of, okay, where are the electrical drops going to be, where are the data drops going to be, right? All that stuff is getting added to the plan as we keep moving forward. CR for card readers, stuff like that. One thing we are looking at in the Register of Deeds office is to make sure we have enough room for file cabinets. We might shift the two cubicles up here a little bit to lessen that space, move those up, change the corridor to allow this area to be as part of their office area for shelving, and books. We went for Register's office, all the books that they have. So we're going to make sure, not kind of fine tuning it to make sure they have enough room in their office. We believe they do, but we're going to make sure they have plenty of room for those books that they need in this area, or a storage room just down the hall as well that they can utilize. We want to make sure we have as much space in there. We might even slide the wall between the treasurer and north a little bit to make sure if we need an extra foot just for the storage cabinets, we can move the whole wall foot at this point and not impact things too greatly. So again, those are some of the areas that we're kind of fine tuning. I would say most of the other areas that are in the building are just like you've seen before in all the other iterations. It's a little more detailed going forward on exactly how the desks look, exactly where the cubicles are, what kind of cubicles those are, and actually spacing those in and showing those on the plan set going forward. We certainly can walk through those other areas as well. We did talk about the vestibule already, but you'll see even in the area of the clinic, again, one of the first areas to be done, we worked very close with Freiler and our HR department to make sure they get what they need in that clinic, as far as a waiting area, working on the new storefront on the west entrance to make sure people and people's families can get into that area, waiting room, or the doorway and the hallways. They want to get so far before needing another card reader access. But again, working with them in particular as far as their needs for the clinic, storage, exam rooms, laboratory rooms, all that kind of stuff. We've been in close negotiation with them throughout the process.
So the clinic is in at this point.
What's that?
The clinic is in at this point.
In the plan? Yes. That was, that went to executive committee last month, I believe that was. I decided to go forward with that.
Last I heard, we were still not sure in either direction.
Yeah, if I can chime in on that.
Yes, please.
So the decision was because if we need to, if the clinic doesn't walk down the road, we need to and repurpose this area, the cost would be minimal because it's like office spaces already. So we figure if we stick the money into it and keep the clinic here, I believe the executive wanted to keep it too as well, right? Which is one of the drivers of this, so. If it doesn't work though, we can repurpose it easy enough with minimal expense as office space.
Okay, we can do whatever besides the exam rooms themselves. It's very limited and specialty.
More,
Things.
more outlets and stuff in China and
It's really let my architect, Jason chime in as well, what the difference is. Obviously, one of the bigger differences is having a sink in the rooms. Versus office would not have a sink. That's one of the major differences between having, between the exam room and that, and also the side lights on the doors. Where you wouldn't have that in the exam room, but you would have that in an office. But again, not every office that we have has a side light.
Right. Yes.
And not to get off the topic, talking about the clinic, but it's my recollection that even without construction costs and changes, the concept of the clinic made sense. You know, on its own merits, continuing as opposed to.
Okay, thank you. Can you also touch on the access, the flow, county staff, but family members with that entrance there and what we're thinking for the access control portions of it, so that's
Sure.
not a security area, with a security screening? 'Cause that's probably family members, not employees, that's the one other area that they'll be coming and going out of the building that's not through security.
Yes, I'm trying to get to the overall site plan here.
Curiosity, we don't
And so you may recall, previous plans, they were color coded a little bit better. There are doors in each of the hallways on each of the three floors. First, so for instance, in this floor, there'll be right almost where this picture is, where the fire is in the hallway, there'll be a door right outside of our county boardroom. And there'll be public access, that side of the county board, and employee or more private access on the other side. Same thing happens on all three floors. On the second floor would happen right near where the old treasurer's office was in this location. The thought process is now with the new key card system that we have is that the initial thoughts are what we believe we can accomplish is that if I'm a employee right here and my wife needs to get to the clinic or my children get to the clinic, I would have a car key for myself, I would have a car key for my wife or my kids. They could come scan in that door and only be able to get to up to, this set of doors in the hallway, not beyond that set of doors on all three floors. So for instance, to be a closed door with car key access to the natural resources, a closed door with car key access to GIS. Again, closed doors to the conference room, the break room will probably open and the restrooms will be open. So even if somebody piggybacked into the building, they can get to the bathrooms, maybe the break room, and that's about it on all three floors. Okay, the secondary thing we have is, I'll call it for lack of better terms, if everyone knows, a ring doorbell at the door. That if, let's just say my wife left the card at home, instead of calling me up or begging to get in some other method or other way, there'd be a ring doorbell that the clinic will be able to see and saying, okay, Andrew Schmidt has an appointment at 10 o'clock. You're Andrew Schmidt, we're gonna let you in. So they have to kind of like confirmation that, okay, who are you? What are you here to see? That they say, I'm Joe Schmoll trying to get in and say, sorry, Joe Schmoll's not on our list. Well, we can't let you in at that point. So again, that policy that work with those various entities to make sure that who they're allowing in and who not allowing in, that back door would be key. Again, as we kind of discussed, to make sure that no piggybacking people coming into the office as well, or into the building, that if I'm just an employee and someone else walking behind me, I wouldn't be letting them in, even if they say, hey, I'm going into the clinic. Well, policy is you got to key yourself in or hit the ring doorbell.
And that's at the exterior door location.
Correct.
On the west door and the.
Correct, on the outside, correct. That key card actually be outside the door or that ring doorbell or we find a better solution, just a ring doorbell, will be at that location and they can chime in to get in. Not that worst case scenario is even if they go all the way through security, they still can't get through that door because they still need to get key card to get from the public side to the private side. So that doesn't really help them out too much. That's why we're working with Sergeant Hannes on financial solutions, and we're happy that we're able to come to this as a financial solution as that car key for the family. Yeah, maybe it's 3 per family. We haven't really gotten to that point yet where my kids are older, they drive, so they might come themselves. So maybe it's 3 cars per family or 2 cars per family. But they'd only have access to an outside door and that door only. If they would get in that door, they couldn't get into natural resources, they couldn't get into IT, they can't get into the HR suite or finance upstairs. They can't get through the door into the public part of the building.
I would think something with the automation of the building, you know, even 110 use code or something. For, you know, when you set up your appointments, it's auto generated. The software exists out there for all kinds of that.
It is amazing what's out there. We just haven't landed on it. We know what our current capabilities are and certainly try to expand on that if possible.
So the corridor to the west of the.
Yeah.
The two-way door and.
Yeah.
The info there, to the left or the west of that, I'm calling that kind of semi-private or semi-employee because it's employees and families. To the east or right of it is still public space.
Correct. Yeah. You'll see that on this floor, you know, on the first floor, this floor is gonna be right out between these 2 doors, so that the door you see behind you will be a public access door. The door you see to my left here will be private side. There'll be a doorway right in the hallway, right about middle of the county boardroom or so. Same thing on the 3rd floor, just west of where the county executive HR suite is, would be where the set of doors are on the 3rd floor.
Okay.
It should be, that's HR, I'm here, county executive suite is here. That set of doors will be here again. If you get up, they get to the restrooms. There's a back door that's locked, the key card access to finance, so. They really couldn't get too far in the building.
Going back down to the 2nd floor, the doorway from the corridor to the waiting room of. The clinic. Would that would primarily be an open door then? I'm assuming?
For the waiting room,
Yeah,
their waiting room doors are closed right now, they should make just keep that closed and have it open when they need to.
it's not like, would that be another key card location, I guess,
It's
or,
on an auto unlock schedule,
okay,
but where they're at right now is right near the public entrance. So they might decide, you know, as we go through and there's less traffic going by them, they might keep the door open,
or
as we go forward. I
just
just said,
a
you know,
privacy lock versus a full key card or something. Okay, it can be determined later, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, we have it scheduled to get, it's got a card reader on it now, we would put a card reader on that location. Just because, because our facilities department, does work in there and that's how we access it. You know, our people are in there before they open. So I would propose leaving that, it would have an auto unlock schedule. We'd be able to give them the key cards, so they can get in and out of their doors, but they wouldn't have a hard key to anything other than storage in their unit.
Any other questions for this area?
come back down to the 1st floor, down the hallway where facilities is, which is gonna be, sorry, this. Yeah. I miss facilities. So facilities, generally speaking, just like you saw, last month. No major changes to that area. So. So the conference room, I'm sorry about that, I'm gonna flip this side, there's a conference room right behind us. Again, constructing 2 walls, that'll be the overflow room for the county boardroom. Again, if people are coming down the hallway in the public area, they'll be able to get to that room. I know not too often do you have meetings of a lot of extra people, but it does happen on occasion, and we have this room behind me that will be available for that, as well as half of the room that's across the hallway as well. There's half the room across the hallway that we typically use, that's going away for facilities. So I make sure if we have a large item that is contentious potentially, or a lot of support from the public, I want to make sure they have that ability to be in the room and maybe next to you as the meeting is going on. Again, across the hall is the facilities area, again, using up half of that conference room remains, the back half goes to facilities. You'll notice there's a back door here that goes out to our loading dock. This door would remain. We put another double set of doors here, so we actually get from our loading dock into the building more conveniently than just one only man door, pedestrian door. Again, the rest of the layout of the facilities areas has remained the same as you see before, but with the addition of a couple cubicle desks that we knew were going to be there, but weren't shown on previous plans. I think the little desks that are right there. And you'll see, again, we're getting more details, see a whole lot of notes of these plans on the side that I'm not going through. You'll see later on, we got plans which show where we're having carpeting, where we're having tiling. Electric plans are in your plan set as well. I don't want to gloss over those, but again, we're offering you to look at a set of plans if you'd like to and make comments on them, or if you have certain general comments, we really take those. Now, as we go through, generally speaking, there weren't a lot of other changes in the IT GIS or the natural resources room. This is currently on the second floor. The main entranceway is on the left or west side of the building. The old county board chair is off to this location, making it into a break room, which is very convenient because the sewer and water goes right underneath that roomway right now. The main vestibule that was there, creating that into a conference room that we're looking at. We're going to work with the architect too. We got some comments on there. So there's some pretty ornate marble on each of the walls in that location that instead of just covering it up with drywall, maybe putting a countertop on each side. So they have countertops on each side, so that marble still may be exposed on that wall. The planters down below, we got to do a little more investigating to see if we remove those planters, is there marble like flat down below? Do they set them on top of the marble, or did they just, cut them in and around it? So it's one of those things you want to look at a little bit finer tune brush in there to see what that looks like going forward. To see if we can get some nostalgia. Same thing with the flooring in there. If you're not familiar, there's a nice big north arrow sitting in there, so maybe leaving that exposed might be an option as well.
It would be nice if we could kind of, if it's practical to salvage or highlight some of that history and stuff.
Right. So we're still working on.
Yeah, the break room right up in that area too, you reference the sewer beneath it. Do we know what type of conditions some of those primary or those main lines are and stuff? Or is that as we start to open up some of the can of worms, we might be figuring more of that out?
Yeah, we had issues with them several years back. I want to say, I can't remember exactly what year, probably 5, 8, 10 years ago. And we had a lot of people utilizing the restrooms and not utilizing them correctly and flushing things down the toilets that they shouldn't be. And we've been very fortunate from not just that restroom, but our restrooms I've done since we did the remodeling, that's been cut way down. And we didn't have any issues except for when they're flushing certain things or taking the paper towels in the bathroom and just loading up the toilet with that type of stuff. So we're very fortunate that hasn't happened yet. So we've had those pipes cleaned out several times through the years because of that, and they were in good shape last week. We expected them to have them. We actually had to videotape them because we were concerned about that. There was something else going on, and there wasn't. It was just inappropriate stuff being flushed down the toilet. So we're very fortunate that has not happened lately.
I'm assuming it's all cast iron type material.
It was, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Certainly can go through the other areas as well. Like I said, the natural resources area, not a lot of change. Again, they're coming from across the street. A lot of their staff is going from offices where they're at right now into cubicles and work with Jamie and natural resources, their staff, to look at those needs. We squeezed down some of those areas and created that conference room, you might recall from last time, and work with her and the staff and be able to be flexible. Again, that's part of those storage areas you have here. Again, the printer area, which should be a card reader to the outside that I'm at the highway department and I have to print something on the plotter. I can go ahead and get card reader access, go in there and get it myself. And so that's a nice feature in that room, but kind of an odd shape of a room anyway, but it allows that flexibility in it. that other people can utilize, again, that printers that the registered deeds might use or the real property lists are downstairs. In one location, we're sharing a common printer instead of having a printer across the street, a printer in this building. They allow for the shared use and scanner and anything else that might go on there. Yeah, not a lot of changes up on the IT area. That's what this one is next on that second floor across the hall where the county clerk is and the treasurer used to be on that floor. Not a lot of changes from the last plan set that you've seen from the IT area. Except for again, we put the cubicles in the plan set. And we got ceiling tile plans going forward. Again, district attorney, we work with the new district attorney. They were originally looked at expanding their conference room. We work with them. They're no longer looking at doing that. Again, it's a little bit of cost savings by actually Kara and her team did a great job of going in there and bringing in jail furniture to actually measure out the cubicles and space needs, work with the DA and saying, yep, this area would actually work. If you add on to that conference room, you might lose the potential to have those 2 cubicles there in the future. And so the decision was made not to put up the wall, that they'd rather have the potential for those 2 cubicles versus that, and they're still getting their offices down below. Just as wasn't all every other plan set, but we're able to work with them and verify of their actual future needs. So we're appreciative of the district attorney working with us closely on that. Not any change since last time to the community development, which is on your right hand side. So again, the second floor as you go up the elevator, our IT and JS is right now. This is now going up to the 3rd floor. We have worked with the county board chair, and there will be a change on your plan set coming. This will be a new county board chair's room at the end of the hallway. This corridor, instead of being open and the wall being here, we're going to just switch at 90 degrees. So the office will go from this wall basically down to here. So that copy printer countertop will be in this location. And so basically all we're doing is taking that office, turning it 90 degrees. So not a lot of major changes there, but allows for additional window to be in the county board chair's office. Where it's just the one window, they have 2 windows in that office. Again, not a major change, but no cost difference really. I'm just basically taking a plan and turning it 90 degrees. What's it, 2 pages? So working with the clerk of courts, really appreciate her time, her staff's time to really dive into it. One of the more extensive areas that we're doing some remodeling, but you can see from that area was very important to label out all the file cabinets in that area. So it's one of the few offices where you see the file cabinets actually put into the plan set. All the cubicles are into the plan set. So we actually make sure without doubt that the layout would work for the clerk of courts. As you can see that changing a coffee counter in this location, keeping a conference room a little bit smaller, having a private reception area off their main reception area, making sure that reception area can be viewed by different staff was important as well, but also allowing access into our department if need be, creating some storage areas on the south side of the area as well. You might recall that the clerk of court's office went all the way down to this wall that exists right now. And so by her being due diligent in previous clerk of courts by going to a paperless system when they can scan documents, all that area now becomes available for conference rooms out there to the staff. So I want to give her credit for being willing to take a chance and look at the building, look at it exclusively, and creating a larger conference area that we have right next to the HR area, right across the county board area, the county executives area, and quick access to the county attorney's office too, if they so desire a larger conference room up on that 3rd floor. So not a lot has changed since the last time. We've seen it, but a little more detail again inside the office area to make sure things are going to work.
I think this was a press report, but it's on a certain, so all of the renovations are taken in mind accessibility.
Yes. Yes. 100%, yes. We have a minor modifications across the hallway from there, which does impact the county attorney's office. We are creating a small office or storage area inside of that, again, a storage area that has access out to the hallway. And I'm not shown on this plan, but we work with the county attorney is, they currently utilize this workstation here in this office. We can't move that office instead of having that wall, the door being accessible from the corridor. We move that office, that wall the door into his office. So that is, that once they access that work area, doesn't have to go outside the hallway and open to the public. It's better off having that access only from inside the county attorney's suite.
So like that type of change or even the rotating the county board chair's office, those are changes that will be made on the next set.
Correct.
And set coming.
Yes, you will see the next set of plans. This one just happens at the kind of the late moment. This one didn't hit it, but you're gonna take that door, the exact door and frame and move it and then close it up. So, you know, relatively speaking, a minor cost, but make sure that you're aware of that change now, so you don't see it come down a little later on.
And then Supervisor Slate had a comment.
Sorry. Hold on. There you are.
We're taking up the space on the first floor where the purchasing department is. Are they moving back into finance upstairs now?
Yes, yes. There are several offices up available for finance, so they're gonna get some carpeting and paint outside of this project. And get moved in there as probably the first phase.
Thank you.
So next set of plans is basically the I'll call it flooring plans, finished floor plans. So you know if it's gonna be carpet is one color, it's gonna stay it's existing. And then walk off, what does that mean? Thicker carpeting, excuse me. That's out there and available. So if you want to see what the floors are gonna look like, we've got that kind of plan set up as well. So you can see that the vestibule, the existing is gonna stay. Existing in most of the hallways is gonna stay. Some areas getting carpeting. Where it makes sense. One thing I want to point out is not included in the plan yet is this stairwell. The stairwell that's right behind me as you come in. If you haven't looked at it, the paint, the gray paint on that stairwell is kind of not in the greatest shape. And the tiling on the wall is the old paint color, I'll call it. So we were looking at to get your thoughts on if we change that one up from the pink to the, I'll call it standard tan color. It's in the hallway, be more uniform, we're looking at some lighting in that hallway. That one, we see the need for that because of, if you look at the flooring, how poorly the paint is right now, but also the tiling being pink. It'd be nice to get more of our building color, be more uniform. And then the other hallway, stairwell is the one you probably came down today, you came down the stairwell at the west entrance. That's not gonna be open to the public. And so we're certainly, if you want to say that one stays pink, we do understand that. But just kind of get your thoughts right now on that type of an expense and the potential changes. What your thoughts are on those two items.
Quick question, how long has that paint been on the walls?
The one in the hallway here,
I know the one in the stairwell that you said was kind of,
Or a tile?
I don't think it is painted.
might be original, like I'm talking about the ones that you can look up, you can make your way up this hallway.
Okay.
Are painted, so you're painting them probably the same color you see on the hallway. I'm sure it's been painted many years ago, I don't know.
I don't know.
you don't have to worry about lead, I guess, you don't have to go in there.
Right.
Paint and stuff.
So you're not replacing the tiles, you're just painting.
You
Correct.
know, okay, thank you.
That's cool.
Any take on both stairwells, just one stairwell, or make the building uniforms for here?
I think it looks cheap if you only do one.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would say if the tile itself is in good condition, you know, if it's not chipped and missing, paint is obviously a nice alternative. But honestly, I would just go for repainting and then modernize the walk right away. It just ties it all together as a better, more inclusive update.
Better for employee morale.
That's my opinion. I'm looking for head nods from others, but
I concur.
Pink's making a comeback.
I'm assuming that the budget is still similar to what we were at with some of the changes I've been seeing on here.
Yes, with some of the takeaways that we've had, obviously some major takeaways in budget, and we're gonna go through budget next time. We've got the updated budget from the architect. Well, that was late last week, correct? Or we're still around that, just under that $7 million figure.
Okay. Thank you.
I think if we didn't update the paint in those stairwells a year and a half from now, we'd be wondering, why don't we just do that? Yeah, so yeah, get it over with.
More importantly, I think some of the constituents would ask this.
Yeah.
I mean, you spent $7 million, why do you still have a 1950s look?
Along those lines, they get into more of the kind of details, as our lighting plan, and we'll start talking about that at the next step as well. Just keep in mind that a lot of the lighting, we were talking about those areas that we're not touching, like human resources, stuff like that. We are doing LED lighting in a lot of the other locations. And should we extend it out to the rest of the building too? Obviously, there's a cost savings to it, but there's obviously an upfront expense as well. So we'll get to that in the next, not next one, but the second agenda item, the last one. But it's something to keep in mind as well as you're kind of thinking going through this, as you see that configuration of the lighting as well.
I would say if we can do as much as we can within our expected budget, it's better to just get it done right away. Obviously, if we're running out of capital, or if there's major changes, those are the first things that are easy enough to scale back on, and, balance it out, but it would be nice, the more it's all on the same page, just as far as uniformity, and it would be better.
So a lot of the rest of the plan sets are kind of some of the details and schedules that you see. Again, we talked about different plan sets. Again, this is the electrical, I believe it's in the plan set. We're working on those internally to look at what that would look like, and editing them now, and work with different departments as far as their needs as well. So there's still some work to be done on some of the electrical plans that you see in here. But certainly if you have any general comments or notes, we certainly want to entertain those as well. But as we
Yeah, I'll be doing that myself.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, the drawings look good. It's all fairly obvious. The real stickler will be what the specifications are.
As always, devils in the details.
There you go.
And we'll get to the called specifications, but some design details in one agenda items. So a lot of the electrical plans that you see in there, and the low voltage and that card reader system will all be, in the plan set that you see as well. And again, a lot of the details on the electrical. Again, I'm not going to go through each one of those in great detail. You do have them available, and if you want to comment on them, we'd certainly take that. We'll be getting the plumbing plans done, the HVAC plans done, and to you in a timely manner.
So the question, Mr. Schmidt, so you talked about some updates like in HR. So those existing lighting fixtures, we're just going to modify, not replace with LED, or some combination there? Because I'm just thinking aloud, technology is ever changing, even LEDs have changed in the last 3 to 4 years. So, what's going to be in the other 5? So, wiring needs are considerably less Romax or not. And again, I'm just thinking, how do we plan for the future if we're doing a lot of renovations now? Do we run extra conduit for snaking to make it easier in the future? Those type of things. Because once you have the ceiling down, it's easy to.
Correct. I mean, we've had the LED lighting project for this building on the radar for several years going forward. And one thing that kind of triggered it was, okay, now we did this first plan, and so that's kind of our specification for our LED lights, make them uniform throughout the building. That's one of our biggest goals from a facility standpoint. Going, all right, they're all the same. One of the downsides is they have one is the problem, they might all have that same problem, but realistically, what the problem is, you can address it going forward. I'm not sure if lighting will be able to future-proof everything 100% and pay for it up front with something coming. As your architect too, if they get comments about what other buildings do to try to help them. Make sure they're looking forward to whatever is potentially coming down the road. I'm personally just not that familiar with where the lighting industry is going right now. But that's where we have consultants to help us with that.
I assume that there's chases already in walls and stuff, right? To allow for more data lines and all that stuff, or not really?
We not a lot of extra ones, no, we don't, generally speaking, but
Okay,
you just never know what's behind these walls. It's an older building.
Yeah, just a cursory review of the drawings, looks like everything's, it's, you know, it looks pretty complete. You have the data openings and all the, you know, you have quad outlets where it would make sense and duplex outlets where it makes sense. And as far as the specs go, you're calling for flat panel LEDs, which are both economical. You can get high quality color and, you know, color rendering and color and output from those. So far, it all looks to me to make sense. As far as trying to retrofit existing, do we have any fluorescent fixtures in the facility yet, or are they mostly? I mean, the areas where we're pulling fixtures out, I'm assuming we're pulling out fluorescents and replacing with LED, so that's about as future proof as you can get. As far as the individual models, manufacturers are changing them every 6 months.
yeah, get extra attic stock, because if you try to match something a year later, it won't, you won't find it.
Yeah, other than that, can try adding a couple extra chases or, you know, spare conduits here and there. Have to kind of stuff in the right spot.
Right.
You know, it has to be a pretty substantial meeting around area for it to really help you out at much, so. If there's really something going on the walls and ceilings come down, that makes sense, or it's probably gonna be very slight material costs anyways, but. Save it for the next project, otherwise.
That's all I have for kind of going through the plans. Again, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds there, but again, if you have any comments, we'd be certainly willing to accept those in like a week or so. And if anybody does want a plan set printed out, please let us know.
I would gladly take a 8% for most for that.
I'm okay with electronic. Electronics.
Okay, that'd be great. We talked about plumbing, electric. A little bit of HVAC, but what fire protection? Is that gonna be more of a design build? As we need it, or where does that system fall?
If you're speaking specifically to fire sprinklers, that would be designed into the project, and then we're also making upgrades to the fire alarm system. So both of those items are going to be addressed as part of the problem.
Okay. And overall, what type of a system do you have? I know like it's a sprinkler, but. Not much more involved, or is this building really been put together as a system, or is it really? Cash flow? That we just built one off.
My opinion is that it's been added to it eventually, so predominantly it's a water sprinkler system. There are a couple areas that have other systems within the building. The idea would be when it comes to that. Okay.
You gotta move the lights.
Yeah, I think it's, no, it's not gonna want to see the other one that's out there these days. And then Warrior something.
Oh, yeah.
With that, are we moving on to the government center site plan? Am I correct? Yep, perfect.
So in that same packet is the exterior site plan. Again, I'm going to focus on the east side of the building here, our main entrance going in. You saw a concept of this, and the plan right now follows along that concept pretty closely. You'll have the main driveway. If you can see underneath it comes in this location, makes a curve to get back into the parking lot. With the fuel island being removed this summer, that main entrance will come in to this main area, so people are driving straight through and not around a curve to get into there. We will then put in necessary storm sewer, curb and gutter, a sidewalk system, to get people into that main entrance. I think the most important thing to look at that is that, the large parking lot that you have, existing on the eastern side are made largely as is. We're adding about 30 stalls or so, closer to the building than what is there right now. The unfortunate thing with the spacing of that, the spacing of our current parking lot, there's gonna be a little bit of an area of an unimproved area. Most likely being some type of mulch or something like that with some plantings in it. To make sure that the spacing is properly, and just unfortunate the way it works out. Not enough room to get another set of parking stalls in there. So it'd be kind of a rest area or something that, some kind of landscape area that we have as well. So, looking at that, traffic will be able to come in, take a right back up Schmidt Drive, Memorial Drive, excuse me, come into the sheriff's office, come into the Justice Center, some closer stalls, and then stalls that are, not so far away, and then again, our stalls that are generally there right now that people are utilizing. So not a lot of major changes in what you've seen before, working with, again, our architect and the consultant team on that. We're gonna look at so this area that's up in here, the old driveway would obviously be removed. We're actually restoring that area. We're looking at where the sidewalk goes in location to the east more, or we utilize some of the current sidewalks that are for the time being. The rough outline that you see here behind the scenes would be a potential other building. If the PAC does go away, we're looking at what that building would look like and where it would be in that connectivity, of that building to the current government center. So just trying to do a little exercise, if you will, if that PAC does go away, are we limiting ourselves or in the future with the current lot, and we are not doing that to make sure that it would be still feasible and usable for other staff. Again, if staff decides to go on this main door, they have to go through security, but the general public would be going through security, but allowing for many more stalls that are closer to the building than where they're right now. We're going to to be a jurist, or to be at a jury trial, or the clerk, going to clerk's office, or deeds or treasurer's office as well. Again, trying to get as many stalls as close to that building as possible.
Mr. Schmidt, kind of going back to, core priorities and farmland preservation or conservation in general, that open spot in the asphalt. Have we considered rain guarding and whatever that term is for collection to help improve groundwater runoff, or all that asphalt has been solved? And
The issue we have in that current location is that is the location of our old highway shop. You might recall part of the conversation was our underground issues we had at that location. So the ground at that location is best off probably not being utilized for that purpose. But there is on the east side of the property, there's a drainage swale. That's their grass swale that goes into a regional detention pond. So we're open to that. We did look at that. The amount of impervious area beforehand and after is about the same. And so we're not adding to that impervious footprint, trying to keep as much green space as what was there original, which helps out stormwater as well. We can certainly look at that area, but on the north side is our old fuel island, and the south side there was a highway shop's contaminated area was, so not sure we want to utilize that area, but it'd be something that we can certainly look at once we get there, but right now it's kind of hard to dig a hole right in the middle of our driveway to check the soils.
I was looking at that area and I was trying to figure out what to do with it too. Looks like it's just big enough. It should be something.
It also has about 4 or 5 feet of slope over it too, on one side to the other because of the various heights.
Changer.
Right. That's where we're also doing that grade change from trying to keep the other parking lots close to level with the other one to the west, and then dropping it down. If you sit out there, it doesn't look like much change, but there's quite a bit of change from the parking lot on the east side than it is to the building, believe it or not.
Thinking of future proofing conduit, chases. But would it be bad to have some extra conduits or electrical capacity in that area? I'm not creative, but there's plenty in our community that I think could be, like, could we use that area for some type of accent. So, you know, I'm not saying put a playground there, that's a horrible spot in the middle of the parking lot, but some type of sculpture, garden. I don't know, some, whatever, figure something, what, for it. It'd be nice to, you know, if we would put something out there and if you would need some accent lighting or whatever for it and. If then. I don't know.
Even a signage, right? Like a nice sign for the,
Signs are boring. I'm more artsy.
oh, artsy sign. Artsy sign.
So the slope across is about 17%.
Okay.
A little bit of flavor, so if you do something with, you're saying typically want a little bit more flat than that, not saying you can't put a retaining wall or something along those lines, but just. Let you know that is where they're catching up a lot of that grade is right in that area. Can't park there.
You got something where it does, people don't need to go in it, but just something that maybe if we can provide a little extra visual stimulation.
Farmers market would go like that.
Huh, we'll think about that. Yeah, there's something else in there.
Any other general comments on the site plan? Because we're getting pretty close to being. Again, close to 90% plans on.
You didn't touch on it much, but I'm assuming we're gonna. I don't know what's out there right now, but are we gonna kind of match the existing, pole lighting, stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of it's gonna remain as is. Yeah, and very similar, make sure you have LED fixtures of new poles, stuff like that. We will be making sure the soils that are there are tested if we do encounter them. We're trying to go higher, not down, so we don't encounter them and deal with that, so. Again, keeping them covered is the best policy right now.
The only thing I wanna do is apologize to my committee for showing up late and thank Brian for stepping up and taking the role.
So, no worries.
And if I could, I'd like to talk to somebody, because since I missed 45 minutes of it, I'm sure I missed the closed session. I see a lot of changes in the plan, obviously, with the entrance, right? Obviously, something happened in the closed session that kind of drove that change, because it's a pretty big change compared to what we were talking about last.
The biggest change is because of the Brad, the county attorney's opinion on the use of the jury room for voting. That was actually done in open session.
We had two lanes, obviously, and the water with the costs on there are some of the reasons we went down to one and just drove everybody through the security then, or is that what I'm seeing on that? Right?
We can talk about it.
Yeah, I don't want to tie up everybody
Yeah,
because I was late, so.
We went to one security station, it was first, we don't have to have the voting anymore to have two. Instead, we just go back to the one that we have right now,
Yeah.
allow for queuing of the people in the middle currently right now. Again, the one thing I forgot to mention that queuing wall is gonna be about countertop height, about 42 inches or so. So it won't be a wall up to the ceiling, it won't be a 2-foot wall, it'll be about countertop height.
Okay. Thank you.
We already do the last agenda, review the design development narrative. We kind of hit that as we.
You kind of hit it as we went along. This is kind of what I call the initiation into the specifications. It's not detailed specifications, but to kind of get a good feel for, so our people that are doing those systems understand kind of the major higher level concepts as we go through, so they can understand what we're looking for as they develop their detailed specifications. I don't know if Jason want to cover a little bit better about the design development narrative and why we have this and why it's in front of you. That's kind of my short explanation.
Your explanation is really spot on. It's the initial start of developing the project specifications that are the details, right? So that's the initial start of it. We want to make sure as we're working through this phase or the DD phase that we've all get on the same page with respect to parts and pieces that are going into them.
With that, the only thing I noticed in the narrative was the HVAC shows at 10.2 that we have a 480 volt system in the building, and we don't. So that would be, you don't want to lead the HVAC guys down the wrong path as they're working on this.
That's why I love
You're over I'm over my skis on that one right now, I'll admit to that.
That's where
You
they're going
got it,
next.
you got it, okay.
Good catch, right on.
Right?
Okay.
A couple of things we did notice in there, the cast iron, in the floor, we're not gonna allow that, if there is cast iron, we're using PVC. We have that issue in another building, as you're aware.
Yeah.
So we did find some other things in there, all being relatively minor that we were working with. A lot of the stuff you see in there already, plumbing fixtures, we've worked with them already to know what's our standards and stuff going forward. Things like our electrical panels, what we have already, so a lot of stuff in there is already working with their team, that we're here on site already, but just kind of keep that kind of same model going. But to let you know, give you a flavor for where we're going down the road before, you know, literally a book of specifications, kind of give you the higher level stuff to begin with. A little easier to see this versus a couple 100-page document.
A nice weekend reading, right?
Yes.
I'll say that's gonna be then similar to the plans, if there's any other redlining or things that stick out the next couple of weeks, is always really a time to hopefully bring those to attention to Scott.
Yes, and like I said, what we're looking for the next phases at the next meeting, we want to talk to you about budget, those 90% plans again, that's, you know, you got this chance to kick it, and then you got one more chance after that before we start going out for bidding. We're talking about schedule next month as well, and signage, we haven't talked about signage externally or internally as well, but that's part of the plan as well, so we see a couple of different things coming at you next month, besides a large plan set and a large bundle of specifications.
One thing I did make a note of that I'll just throw out there for, I don't know if it's appropriate to be a part of the actual drawings or the plans, or if it's something that more can just be created in house or after the fact. But like some of our discussions earlier on alluded to, kind of creating the zones of the building or the public versus private areas. Kind of, I think it would help just because we do have kind of two different leaders or entities running this building. You got the government center and the justice center. We're really seeing where that broken division line, where whose hallway is who, or whose doorway is whose. And then also, because this will be, I think, a good segue to help hand off more to, I'll call it HR side, but creating the policies and procedures that we've been talking about have to be developed down the road for what employee goes where, or something like that. I think it would be helpful just for long-term as this project is not only completed, but the county learns how to live with in the new space. It will be helpful for as those future discussions pop up. So maybe not so much part of the plan set, but definitely those would be good internal documents for the county staff to have and use.
Excellent point.
All right, with that, I don't see any other hands raised, so I'll say our next meeting date is gonna be May 19th, 2025. And with that, we're adjourned.